Good morning. Welcome to Member Focus Monday. I'm Christina Schaefer, Social Media Manager for HAR. I am joined by our MLS Matrix guru himself this morning, Nathan Goble. Nathan, welcome.
Well, thank you for having me.
We were doing a little bit of reminiscing this morning and thinking back, you were actually the first on-camera interview that we ever had on this program.
That's right. That was probably many members might not remember. It was before it was called Member Focus Monday. It was called Matrix Focus Monday.
That's right. And we did it, I think, in one of our classrooms with a little pop-up banner. It was very low tech, but we've evolved since then, and we're so glad to have you back.
Well, thank you very much for having me. This program has been wonderful.
Yeah, so I have a feeling most of our members know exactly who you are, but and if you've ever called and gotten support, you might have spoken to Nathan, especially if it was a bigger problem, because Nathan really problem solves a lot of that for us. But if you could just tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do for HAR.
Sure. I'm the MLS Project Manager and Quality Assurance Manager for the Houston Association of Realtors. I've been working for HAR for over 17 years. HAR is all I've ever known. I began working for HAR about 8 months after I graduated from Baylor University. My primary responsibilities for HAR include overseeing software development and implementation, rules and regulation enforcement, data distribution, and maintaining data integrity for the MLS.
Wonderful, thank you. And I'm going to go ahead and say it before our members do. You do an excellent job. If you guys are now recognizing Nathan's voice because you've talked to him, let us know in the chat. We'd like to know if you've spoken to Nathan before. So we decided that this was just a really good time to have you on because, if anybody's pulled up Matrix in the last few weeks, you've seen some updates. There's been a lot of updates to Matrix recently, starting with the rollout of Matrix 10. In August, I believe it was, and then a few more updates about 2 weeks ago. So if you could tell us what's new, what's going on in Matrix.
Well, sure. The first thing that we did is on August 12th, we updated the school boundary maps. And for the members, we in-house, we researched the school districts in the greater Houston area, and we check for every boundary change that there may be so that y'all have the most current boundaries and your listings are updated with the most current schools. With the latest research, we're now all the way to I-35 from San Antonio to just about Dallas. We cover 324 school districts and 2,244 schools. So this year, there's 26 new schools that were added to the system. And so what that means is that those 26 schools are only inside of our system and only on HAR.com. They won't be on any third-party website because it takes about a year or two for national portals to update with new school information. So that was on August 12th. And then a week later, we followed that up with Matrix 10. And with Matrix 10 came the update of the map search being able to be full screen. That's been a sore spot for many of our members. They've asked forever that if you have a larger monitor, they had this dead white space on the right side, and why can't the map go all the way over there?
Right.
And now it does. And that allows members to see more layers at a wider view and see their criteria at a wider view. Another member feature request was on the concierge for auto emails is you weren't able to see all of the listings on a map at one time. You had to individually look at a map for each property. Well, now there's the ability to see all of them, select the ones you want to send to your client, and then send them from the map view. So that's a popular feature. The sort order indicators on the quick search results was finally added, so you can see what the default sort order is by the system, and then you can change it yourself, and it'll show up to 3 arrows, letting you know what that is. A new one that is personal to me because I'm a map junkie is we finally have an indicator to tell you that we don't think your map is good. So when you hit that, auto geocode from address, if the system can't make a good one, before it would just put a pin on there and it could be in El Paso even though your property's in Katy, and the system wouldn't say it was a bad map. Well, now it has a big red message that'll appear, say, warning, we were not able to give a good location for this, you need to take a closer look.
That's wonderful. So that's when they're adding a listing that will pop up for them?
Yes,
that's
when they
wonderful.
geocode for the first time, absolutely. Another one is on the quick search page. We now have the ability to select all statuses or select no statuses with just one click. I know that had been a complaint from members because they hated having to check every little box to do select all. Going back to maps, on the map search, we added the ability for intersection. And what that means is if you draw, a radius here and then a radius down here, you'll actually be able to say, I only want the results that overlap between the two. And I think that's a cool feature if you're trying to find something that's relatively close to two different places.
Right.
We changed some of the iconography. The icons that appear in all the pages, they're actually bigger. For people that thought our icons were too small, we increased the size by about 50%. So hopefully you can click the right icon now without accidentally clicking the wrong one. We added a refresh button to the My Listings widget so that it'll refresh in real time as opposed to when it's set to do. So if you know there have been updates but you don't see them yet, you can hit that refresh button and see it automatically. There were overhauls to the contacts, the header and navigation bar. It's kind of CoreLogic's first attempt at modernizing Matrix and making it look like a modern system. That's one of the complaints we do get about Matrix, is that it looks like it's 10 years old, and the truth is it is 10 years old. But we just make it operate quickly like a new one.
Right.
And then last is there's new map layers were added in Matrix that could go around your search criteria. So say you put in search criteria for active properties in somewhere, but you wanted to see what had sold in the past 3 months, you could click on the layers, go to MLS status, check sold, and then select, say, 3 months, and it'll show you all the properties that are on your map that have sold in the past 3 months.
Wonderful.
That way you can see how much activity is going on there. That's pretty much Matrix 10 in a nutshell. And then 3 weeks.
I'm sorry. Yeah, we did have a question that's already popped up.
Okay.
A lot of people saying good morning. It's good to put a voice to a face to a voice. People that have spoken to you on the phone. Brandon did have a question about photographers and links, so I wanted to bring that up really quick because we do see this question from time to time. Photographers are affiliate members of HAR and can edit photos for other members. As of now, we can only add one link under virtual tour. Will Matrix updates allow us to add links to 360 tours, videos, etc.?
You should be able to add 2 virtual tours to a listing, and then 2 video tours to a listing. If you're not able to do that, I can check as a photographer user class after this call and make sure that works the way it's supposed to.
Wonderful.
But if there's additional links we need to add, we could certainly add that to our Matrix task force to review for changes to the system down the road.
Perfect. So I didn't mean to cut you off there.
Okay.
After the Matrix 10, there's also been some additional changes, correct?
Yes. So 3 weeks later, we decided to follow that up with our database changes. So all of this was in a 30-day span, which is not by design. It's just COVID, kind of changed some of our plans to all come out at this point. So the database changes is our annual rollout of new fields and values, and I think one of the I won't go through every single thing that's on there, but the garage apartment square foot and square foot source was really something we've had several requests for, as we don't allow you to put the total square foot in the system so that doesn't change the price per square foot. There was no real way for someone who had a garage apartment to express what their garage apartment was. Well, now you have that. And then the garage dimensions was added, so you could say how large your garage is. There's a new one that we've got many requests for, which is being able to indicate and search for 55 plus active communities. So I hope that one gets the use that we had several members that had suggested that in the past year.
Mm-hmm.
We added the affordable housing program description that actually, instead of just selecting that there's affordable housing program in the financing considered, now you have a field where you can type up to 500 characters of explanation as to what that program is. We added a balcony faces for townhouse condo and rentals. We added a pets allowed for townhouse condo and mid-high rise, and then 3 new fields for mid-high rise was building features, unit features, and then number of unit stories. They've hardly ever get much attention because it's our least used property class right now, anyways. But it's finally getting some new fields and values, and since we added those fields, we've already had 5 more suggestions for mid-high rise. So I guess the need is absolutely there.
So that was actually a point I was going to ask you. We're not just adding these fields just for the sake of adding fields. These are actually member suggestions that come into you?
There is not a single change we make to the system that doesn't start with a member phone call, a member email, or one of us talking to a member who presents an idea, and we act on it. Not every idea gets acted on, but we review every single idea that comes from our members.
Mm-hmm.
And if it's something that's minor, we can sometimes implement it without having to go through a board motion. If it is larger, then it has to go through a vetting process before it can be approved and added to the system.
Wonderful, wonderful. So that's not all to the database changes, correct?
Correct. That was the fields.
Mm-hmm.
And so going into the values, an obscure one, but it was requested, is that we add a room type called basement. And I couldn't believe that there's actually a property with basements in the greater Houston area, but I've already heard from 3 realtors that is true. So there's no reason not to add it.
Mm-hmm.
It may not get used but 1 out of every 10,000 listings, but hey, they'll have that ability. We renamed foreclosure to real estate owned. That change was really to become consistent with industry standard terms. I know it's confused several members because we've had foreclosure for 20 plus years.
Mm-hmm.
But it's been renamed to real estate owned, and then along with it we added the new values: pre-foreclosure, probate, and then seller may be subject to foreign tax and buyer withholding. A few other ones: we added the Texas Veterans Land Board for financing considered. We added the EV charging station at many members' requests due to electric cars becoming more popular,
Mm-hmm.
and people want to say that their home has the accommodation for their Tesla.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's all I have on my screen. I think
Okay. Very good. Well, that's all you have, but that's a lot.
Yeah.
Those are a lot of changes. And we've been showing some of these changes as Nathan goes through and talks about them. But later in the program, Nathan did put a whole slide deck together for you guys. So we'll be sharing that a little bit later in the program. I know that one of the things that you and I have been fans of in the MLS is the map. I was a big fan of Fusion because of the map, and we don't have to dive into Fusion, but I loved the map in Fusion. And the map, it just seems that what we have in Matrix is great, and they just keep improving. So do you find that the new mapping features are easier for members to use? Are there things that you would change? Do we still have members asking for different things with the map?
Well, I find it easier than Tempo.
Mm-hmm.
There's no one that can really hold that argument with me. The Fusion users, when Flash is behaving, I can agree that the mapping feature in Fusion was great, and that was the number one reason why anyone used Fusion, was because of the way it presented the maps and your ability to search. But I do find that Matrix's map is very user-friendly, while having advanced features that are more advanced members can take advantage of. You can simply draw a rectangle or circle and see results, or you can even freehand draw a shape. I don't advise freehanding because it can be very prone to errors by your hand just making a quick jag.
Mm-hmm.
But it also lets you draw up to 10 shapes, and they can be resized or moved after the fact, which is a really great feature if you need to make changes later.
Yeah.
None of this was possible in Tempo. If you were a Tempo user, if you drew a map and you committed it, that was it. You couldn't go back and revise it. You had to redraw it from scratch, and you had to remember what you drew.
Mm-hmm.
There was no second chance. Fusion worked well, but again, Flash had to behave, and that was a constant problem and sore spot for Fusion users.
Mm-hmm.
One thing I do really like about using the map myself is that I find it to be better than using a subdivision field, as you have to be reliant on the accuracy of the subdivision value on the listing to get the right results. And one of my examples I always go to are the villages and the woodlands.
Mm-hmm.
And in this case, I would say Panther Creek. If you do a subdivision search by Village of Panther Creek with both asterisks to do the wildcard, you only return 2 results. And there's not 2 listings that are active in Panther Creek right now. There's 23. That's a problem if you're trying to find results for your buyer.
Mm-hmm.
So if you do a map search for that area, you could easily get those 23 if you know the area and you draw it, and you'll see that the subdivision name is expressed 10 different ways.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a product of the agents typing it in, the auto population, multiple things. So if you create the map, you can save it, and then you can use it down the road. You can use it anytime. With the polygon being editable, you can refine it as maybe a new section opens up and you want to add that section to your subdivision search. I just think that that's an easier and more efficient way for you to search for properties.
Absolutely. I mean, we know consumers, that's one of the things they love about HR.com is being able to draw on the map specifically. Maybe I don't just want to live in Sugarland. I want to live on this side of 59 in this area,
Right.
north of this street, whatever the case is. They can draw that on the map, so it's really important for realtors to be able to replicate that in Matrix. And as you said, it's always editable. So if they change their mind, you've set up an auto email for them and they change their mind, you can always go in and just make a little change to that shape. I do see quite a few questions popping up, Nathan, so I want to
Okay.
kind of roll through those. And then Nathan actually has a few hidden features in Matrix, if you will, that realtors might not know about that he wants to share too. So Kamisha asked the amount of listings that you can text to a consumer at one time. She says, has that number been increased? I don't know if you know that number offhand.
I do not at the
Okay.
moment, but I don't know of any changes that have been made to it in the past several months.
Okay, very good. And I do see Vanessa already answered this question, but I'll have you answer it out loud for everyone as well. There was a question, is it okay to share other brokerages' listings as a platinum member?
Yes.
And we do have training, so Rashmi was asking about training on this. We do already have a lot of Matrix training going on. There was a question, okay. Is there a contents page that shows shows excluded words not to use in listings? I was recently notified that a large family room was prohibited and removed from my wording.
Okay, I'll try to take the less than a minute on this one.
Okay.
This is fair housing, and when it comes into fair housing, there are potential trigger words, and I use the word potential because when we had this case many years ago where we were notified for a fair housing violation, we asked them for a set of words that we can use, and we were not given one. All we were told was basically they restated what was in the rules, which is basically that you cannot show a preferential or prejudicial statements towards or against any of the protected classes.
Mm-hmm.
And so what we've done is it's kind of doing our best guesswork as to whether that might possibly be picked up. You see, I believe it's a HUD that they have field officers or field agents that review public websites, and they review those public websites for potential fair housing violations. And so they're reading your remarks on HR.com, and they're reading public commentary. And so what we're doing is we're taking a proactive approach to try and prevent any listing from inadvertently flying in violation of that. And some people don't realize that when you put perfect for a large family, you're kind of saying not perfect for a small family,
Mm-hmm.
or perfect or not good for a single person.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where it seems like it's innocent, but HUD could interpret it differently. And so
Right.
while we're not the one enforcing the rule or issuing a fine, we're trying to protect you from being fined by HUD.
Very good. Nicole had a quick wording question on the changing from foreclosure to real estate owned. She said, why not bank owned rather than real estate owned?
One could say it's not necessarily a bank that owns the property. It could be a lender or an investment group. They may not be a bank. We checked with what's called the RESO Data Dictionary, which is a national group that works to standardize terms that are used in real estate across the country, and real estate owned is the industry standard term.
Very good. A lot of questions comments about tempo and Matrix. We've got some Keanu Reeves jokes going in here as well. Let's see. So there's a couple technical questions, and again, I appreciate Vanessa being on here helping us out. Vanessa is one of our quality assurance staff members who's helping us.
Thank you, Vanessa.
Yes, thank you so much. So another question about sharing other brokerages listings here, Adriana, and I know this came up in our Platinum group just yesterday as well too, so let's go ahead and talk about it now. If I share other brokers listings, so other brokerages listings, do I have to ask permission or can I just share it?
If you're using the link to like the sharing feature in Matrix, no. It shows it's compliant with IDX, which is the policy by which allows you to share properties. And every brokerage is basically opted into IDX. That's what allows you to be displayed on another brokerage's website. What you can't do is take another brokerage's listing and go to Craigslist and manually post their property on there. One, Craigslist isn't your brokerage website, not providing brokerage services. And then two, it's manually keyed in, which is a bigger problem for me, is that if that price changes, your listing doesn't update with the new price. If information changes, your listing or posting doesn't update with the new information. And now we have two sets of information about one property, and it's not the listing agent's fault. And that's what causes a huge problem. So I would say, as long as you're using an HAR link and you're using it on your business page or one of your business pages, then you should not be in any problem at all.
Very good. So there was a comment here about, and it's kind of a long one, but it was a comment here about just getting Matrix and some of the platinum features to work together. I know that's something that you and our technology team and our director of MLS, Sean Dauphine, you guys work hand in hand together. There have been a lot of changes. Is there anything coming up that our members should know about as far as making Matrix and platinum tools work a little more cohesively?
I mean, that is the goal.
That's the goal, yeah.
So
is there anything just in the works as at the moment, or are there just many things in the works?
Well, I know that Taki had recently talked about, the CRM being in development, and that is probably one of the biggest pieces that is being worked to kind of unify Matrix and HAR.com and the platinum tools. Is the goal is to be able to connect your information that you have as a member on HAR with your information that you have in Matrix, and that is a project that is deep in development right now. I can't say too much about it because that's really Taki's baby. But we are doing everything we can to help with that project and assist to get it to where he needs it to be. But the end goal is to unify any of your agent branded app contacts with your contacts in Matrix and have them communicate back and forth with each other. That is the end game of that project. Beyond that, it comes down to what platinum tools do we not have integrated enough, and if we have a blind spot pointed out to us so that we can take a look and make sure that we're not missing something a member wants.
Excellent. Just some clarification here from Natalie. She said, when we post listings on social media, should we stay away from posting prices? I think that's what you were saying, is that if you're sharing it from the source, the price will update automatically.
So where it gets problematic is if you make a post, I wouldn't write the price in. I would not. I would only use what is generated from the post. And the reason becomes you now become responsible for making sure to edit that post down the road. And how many of us go back and check our posts from 10 days ago, 20 days ago, 30 days ago to make sure the information's still accurate? And none of us do. Right.
So, and what Nathan means there is when you're writing that caption, so you're sharing the link and you're saying, what a value at under $300,000. Well, let's say there's a price increase and you've put under $300,000. So yeah, that's a really good point. A lot of people are really appreciating the detailed information you're giving us this morning. I wanted to ask you, Nathan, because I feel like there's members who use Matrix every single day, right? And they're not necessarily using it to its full potential. So what are some of maybe your most favorite hidden features, if you will, in Matrix that realtors might be missing out on?
Well, when it comes to me, the first thing that comes to mind is the homepage, and that's because agents are very linear driven. When they get into Matrix, they already know what they want to do, which is search, search or enter property. Those are the two most common functions in the system. So some people just bypass any of the widgets we have on the homepage, specifically search and listing data checker. We recently revamped the search widget on the homepage. It used to just have like an address and a zip code and city, and it was kind of wonky. The fields weren't aligned, they weren't symmetric. So we redesigned it to have more fields on the widget, including status. And so we got a couple calls after we changed it because we defaulted active to be in the widget. So you can just highlight active and delete the text. The agents thought they had to click on the pick list and then unselect it, which it could have been clearer. But the basic thing is you can now go into that search widget, put in a subdivision, and get your results immediately without having to do anything else or even go to a search form. So if you don't see that search widget, I'd recommend reopening it and maybe moving it to the top right slot so that you can see it as one of the first things when you get in.
Very good.
The second widget that I know is buried for most people because it was one of the last things we added is the listing data checker. And the listing data checker widget actually tells you if you have any notices. So we get complaints in QA about agents not receiving the email. We understand that that's a problem. Email is just problematic in general. If you're a realtor, you get 50 emails a day from every part of the industry. So you use the widget, and if you see a red line, and what I mean by that is it'll say current violation in red, and it'll have a counter by it. And if you don't see that, you don't have anything to do. That's it. If you see red, I would advise you to click on it so you can see what you do need to review, and it'll tell you the MLS number, the notice that we've issued, and then when it needs to be addressed by. And if you click on the MLS number, then it'll even show you specifically what triggered the system. So it just helps you stay clear of the rules, and it's a quick and easy way to see it, because most of us go into Matrix at least once a day.
Right. So again, that main screen, that home screen of Matrix is customizable. So Nathan's suggestion is move some of these important widgets closer to the top. So when you go in and you go to click search, you actually see if there's any listings that you need to go take a look at. So great suggestion there. Yeah.
Absolutely. Another feature that could be used more is the speed bar for saved searches. This is one of my favorite features. Is you say you have a farm that you use frequently and you put in the similar criteria almost every time, or at least you start with the same base criteria, you can save it as a speed bar contact. And so it's almost the same as doing a saved search. The difference is that instead of clicking create new saved search, you do new speed bar shortcut. And when you do that, it then asks you to give it a name. And so you give it something short. Going back to our Panther Creek example, I would say just give it the name Panther or Panther Creek with no spaces. Then I hit save. Once that's saved, at the top of the bar that's always there, you could just type in r/Panther or Panther Creek, and then boom, it immediately comes up with the results as if you had typed in all that criteria beforehand. And then you can even edit the quick search, not the quick search, the speed bar shortcut afterward, just like a custom search. And you just go to settings and you go to speed bar shortcuts and make the edit so that you can have that at any time. And just like with quick custom searches, you can have hundreds of these. You just have to remember what the keyword is. And so I would recommend doing that for any farm that you have.
Yeah, that's wonderful. It's all about saving time in that speed bar. I mean, it's implied, right?
Okay, exactly.
In the speed bar. Great. So there's always development, right? Obviously, the developers at Matrix are listening to us, and we've been using Matrix as our primary MLS for how long, Nathan?
We will be hitting the three-year mark on November 14th. Yeah. It's a day that's burned into my head when we retired Tempo.
I can't imagine why. So they're obviously listening to us. You and our director of MLS, Sean Dauphine, also have a good relationship with them and are able to submit ideas and requests from our members. Are there any future updates in the works that our members should be aware of or should know about?
Certainly. Just to be clear, the developers both at HAR and CoreLogic are always working to improve the system. It's a never-ending task. They're currently rewriting the Matrix CMA, tentatively called the 360 CMA, and it's supposed to be rewritten from the ground up, similar to Contacts. So the pages will be given a more modernized outline, font, and design, as well as better integrations with certain parts of the system. We should be able to hear more about that in the next few months. It's a part of the evolution of Matrix 10. Matrix 10 is supposed to be the entire rewrite of all of Matrix across the board into a modern system, section by section. In addition to that, we're working on a new layer in Matrix that will show the city and ETJ boundaries for our market. This has been a big suggestion from members for quite some time, as that PDF is just getting harder and harder for members to read with the wonderful peach, tan, and skin color that we have. So hopefully we'll have something better than that that'll be zoomable and actually visible. We're looking to enhance the media app that we recently launched this year to allow you to edit incomplete listings. Right now you can only do listings that have been made active. So that is a little limitation. We're working with CoreLogic to fix that. And then we're also looking to address an issue for school districts like Conroe that have more than 3 schools. And so we're looking to add a 4th school layer for school districts to auto-populate that additional school in the event that they have one.
That's wonderful. And there was actually a question about ETJ, and I purposely didn't read it because I knew you were going to be telling us about that. So that's wonderful. It's obviously something our members are asking for.
Certainly.
We do. Was there anything else you wanted to mention? I do have a few more questions that are coming up here.
Okay,
Okay.
I'm good.
Sure. So Natalie asked, is there a way for Matrix, to notify us when a client likes or makes a note on a property in their portal?
Absolutely. You would go to your settings. Make sure you go to your settings and go to portal notification settings.
Mm-hmm.
When you go to portal notification settings, there is an ASAP feature that is not turned on by default,
Mm-hmm.
Because we know many of our members don't want to be notified ASAP anyways. If you do, you can select that for each of the actions, which saving a note or favoriting it is one of those actions. And then if you see at the bottom, you can even be notified on your cell phone as a text message.
Mm-hmm.
And I can tell you that it works because I have searches that I use with my team, and I can tell when they actually visit the site, and it gives it to you almost immediately. Now, it doesn't hit you over and over again if they do it like within a couple minutes, but it will repeatedly notify you. You do have to go through a little test verification process. CoreLogic wants to make sure they're not sending spam text messages to phone providers, because that'll get us blacklisted, and that we haven't been blacklisted in over a year now, and if we could ever avoid being blacklisted again, it'll be a great.
Very good. Richard was asking, what's the difference between the speed bar shortcuts and hot sheets or market search?
Well, hot sheets and market search are events, and so they're looking for activities that have occurred, like say a price change or a status change. The speed bar shortcut is actually a regular search, so it's looking for what is right now, what is active, or whatever your criteria that you've selected is. That's a big difference between the two.
Mm-hmm. Okay, very good. That actually, those notification changes that Natalie was asking about, that's actually one of my favorite hidden features, because a lot of members don't realize that's there. Very good. So a lot of questions about when the CRM is coming, and again, that's more to our technology department, correct? You're working with them, but that's more of their...
Yeah, we're working hand in hand with technology, and we will certainly be doing some of the testing as we get closer, but that is ultimately a project that is under Taki's wing.
Okay, very good. And really good question here from Guillermo. Where would I go to make suggestions to improve Matrix?
At the top of Matrix, there is I believe a submit feedback button. And if you click on that, that actually sends a ticket into the system we have on our side as a suggestion to review, and we review every single email that comes in through there. And we may not necessarily respond, but we certainly review everything in there, and you should get a ticket number back. So if you ever want to follow up, you can ask us about it. And barring all else, you can always email me directly, Nathan@har.com, for the 5 of you that don't know my email address.
Yeah, that's very good. And you guys actually catalog these requests by members, right? So that you can see, well, we've had 50 members request this at this point.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, we do.
Very good. So just to review, I think you opened a few people's eyes to speed bar searching. Where can you see those speed bar searches after you've created them?
So if you go to settings, you click on your name on the top right, and then you click on settings. There'll be an option in the settings menu that says speed bar shortcuts, and you click on that, and then it's going to show you the shortcuts that you have created for yourself.
Okay, very good. Nathan, I have to ask you this. Do you ever miss tempo?
I do. Well, I did. In the beginning, I can tell you that when we started this project for Matrix in 2014 and we started to get the spec, after going through Fusion, I wasn't as enthusiastic about changing platforms.
Mm-hmm.
I started working for HAR 4 months after Tempo was launched in the Houston market. So you could kind of say I grew up with Tempo.
Mm-hmm.
And letting go of Tempo probably was one of the hardest things I've done in my career. I mean, I used that thing 50 hours a week for almost 15 years. So I knew that thing about as well as I know myself. So when we started the conversion to Matrix, I knew that Matrix had to be fast and it had to be at least relatively easy.
Mm-hmm.
Because I knew our members, including myself, were kind of resistant to that change. Or it wasn't going to go over well here. And look at Fusion. At one point, Fusion was in the consideration for replacing Tempo. That wasn't until we let our members use it, and we knew that didn't go very well.
Mm-hmm.
And we did have a small and loyal following to Fusion. All. The majority of members used Fusion one time,
Yeah.
and then went right back to tempo.
Mhm.
I mean, it just was a 90-10 split. And I'm pretty sure that if Fusion hadn't been built on Flash, it might have been a different outcome.
Mm-hmm. Very good. Janie just said, wow, I am underusing Matrix. I'm learning about all these additional features. Several people saying that they need to take a Matrix class as soon as possible. And we did post the link to those in the comments. We're also going to post the link to all of Nathan's slides that he prepared for today, some more screenshots. And we do have some technical questions, but I know you, Nathan, I know you'll go and check those out and make sure they all get answered. And again,
Certainly.
Thank you to our staff that are on answering questions as well. A couple Fusion lovers here with me today, but they followed it up with Matrix is better, and I definitely have to agree that Matrix is better. Is there anything else you want to share with our members before we wrap up today?
No, the only thing I want to finish with is that feedback button is something you should definitely not hesitate to use. The changes that occur in Matrix are almost exclusively designed around your feedback, and we don't. While we work on our own ideas, they're fleshed out from yours. We want to make the system the best thing that you can use, and so we need your feedback, any kind, and we will take it under review every single time.
Wonderful. Well, again, Nathan, thank you for all of your time this morning, and to all of our members that are watching, thank you for tuning in. Next week, we will actually have a financial advisor on who it specifically works with realtors, has classes for realtors. So any of you that have questions, concerns about financial planning, especially in this world we're living in right now with a lot of uncertainty, you need to tune in next Monday. So we will see you next Monday at 9 a.m. for your next Member Focus Monday. Have a great week, everyone. Bye-bye.